Welcome to the Put on Waivers Media Group, home of the Put on Raiders podcast and the Student Body Right podcast. This is your place for the best breakdowns and the best insight for those who fight on and bleed silver and black. Now, here are your hosts, Dwayne Douglas and Ryan Holmes.
And welcome everybody to the gorgeous episode of the Put on Raiders podcast. I'm your host, Dwayne Douglas, and as always, I am podcasting on the beautiful shores of the Pacific Ocean. Beautiful day out here in Southern California. PORSBR is my Twitter handle, so check me out here. Ryan is traveling around the world for work, so we'll catch up with Ryan a little bit later. The Raiders. It's been a while, right? It's been a long time Raider fans since we've been able to do a show. So let's just go ahead and jump right into it. I think the first thing I want to talk about is an old Raider, Davante Adams. He's now on the Los Angeles Rams. Good for him. He's with McVay. He's with Stafford. He's with all those guys there, and that's fine. McVay went out of his way to court him and want him to be part of his receiving core. They moved on from Cooper Kupp, all those things like that. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. And whether it's, talking to Kay Adams, whether it's talking to the Los Angeles media, it's time to just shut up now about the Raiders and your past indiscretions when you were with bad teams and everything like that. And they know what they're doing. And everybody else says, dude, just stop. This is like you talking about an ex-girlfriend, It's just too much. But at some point, the Raiders are in the rear view mirror of your career. I understand that you thought when you came here, you thought it was going to be like Fresno State, and you realized the reality of what Derek Carr is as a pro quarterback. So he didn't do. He's very limited in what he can do. You came to the Raiders that year one, had a career year. It was you and Josh Jacobs, tremendous performances by both of you. But at the end of the day, people move on. Josh has spoke his piece maybe once, and then he's moved on, and he's doing whatever he can to help Green Bay win the NFC and go to the Super Bowl. It's time for you to do the same thing. Just stop talking about the Raiders and your past teams. You were with Aaron Rodgers. You chose to go with another one of your friends, Derek Carr, and then you try to go back with Aaron Rodgers, and none of it worked out. And now you're with Matt Stafford. You're in a situation where there's no excuses. You're on a really good team. Nobody in football would be surprised if the Rams were in the Super Bowl next year. They have a really good defensive line. They have a lot of the pieces to the puzzle that you would want to build a team that can go far in the playoffs. So don't be that guy. The relationship is over. The dating period is over. The breakup is there. Let's just stop talking about the past squads and stop bringing those things up. The Raiders now. So a lot of Raider fans are excited. I think right now they're in a situation where they kind of have half of a football team right now. Maybe I should say 2/3 because the Raiders do have a really good kicking game. Whether it's Carlson or Cole, so that is a third of the NFL football. They look like they could have the makings of a good offense. They do have that, and I do think that this whole thing about everybody and their grandmother talking about Geno Smith's accuracy. It's just interesting because whether it's Warren Sharp or no matter who it is, everybody's talking about how accurate he is and all those things like that. It didn't kind of show out in the red zone, but the red zone numbers, but everybody's talking about how accurate he is and how good he is. Me personally, again, we talk about this on the program every time. I'm not against or angry that this team went out there and got Geno Smith. I just would definitely wanted a young quarterback to groom under him. He is 35 years old. And for that not to be a priority is always it never is a priority for the Raiders. So it is what it is. I'm not gonna cry about it anymore. But I will state it every time because I want to make sure everybody knows where I stand with the Raiders and their quarterback situation. They're still one injury away from Aiden O'Connell being part of this football team. Um, that being said, they have some serious weapons on this team. They do. I think Jack Bash is going to fit that big physical receiver who can block and be a possession receiver for the Raiders. You can say, hey, they got Jack Bash, but then they have Jacoby Myers who's kind of similar roles for them, but it still makes the team a physical football team. And I think that's what Coach Kelly wants. He wants this team to be a physical football team on offense, and you got to have wide receivers who can block. And both Jacoby Myers and Jack Bash can block. What they are doing as far as the wide receiver goes, the wide receiver speed position goes, they have Trey Tucker, who has have been up and down. His footwork on the sidelines have been really poor. Since he's been in the league, he's done a really poor job of getting 2 feet in and catching the ball. He does have a good speed, so we'll see if he can get deep. But I think Dante Thornton Jr. from Tennessee is a guy who everybody is looking forward to this being that big speed receiver. He had a really good mini camp. He can do a lot of the things that Trey Tucker can do, and he's also 6'4". You know what I mean? So like that's a huge part of it as well. So I know Max Crosby compared him to Latavius Bryant. We were like, in our Raider chat, we were like, can we picture a better receiver for the Raiders? Like, can we do like Jerry Porter or somebody like that? Like not Latavius, the White Tiger, as John Gruden used to call him. But with that being said, like they have the makings of it, and you keep going to the skill positions. Michael Mayer, they made a point to Michael Mayer to get Michael Mayer involved, who can block, who can catch the football. We know about Brock Bowers and his all world ability. They feel like they upgraded their quarterback position with Geno Smith, and then you have Raheem Mostert, who's a really good second back along with Aston Genty. So you're looking at those things as well. So we'll see what happens there. But none of that can happen if the Raiders can't block it. And I think that's the biggest thing here. And that's where, we talk about Coach Carroll being there, but Brendan Carroll is going to be one of the most interesting names you're going to hear about this year, because Brendan Carroll he has to make sure that everything is where it needs to be on the offensive line. He is also the run game coordinator as well for the Raiders. So Coach Carroll, the other Coach Carroll on this team, is going to be probably the most integral part of what the Raiders want to do, because none of it happens. None of what Chip Kelly wants to happen, none of what Coach Pete Carroll wants to happen on offense is going to take place if they can't block it up front. Now they went out there and they got some offensive line help. We know they got some active bodies and a Chip Kelly offense. He wants athletic offensive linemen who can move. And if that's the case, then that should be good to go. But Coach, as we've seen in the past with the Raiders, one of the most important coaches on your coaching staff is the offensive line coach. You need to have an offensive line coach who knows what he's doing. So just in his background real quick, he was at USC. So as a grad assistant, a tight ends coach, he was the offensive assistant with the Seattle Seahawks. He was also Miami and Florida. He was a tight ends coach. Then he went to wide receiver coach. He went from Seattle. He went to Seattle again in 2015, where he was assistant offensive line coach. Then he went to and then that was from 15 to 19. So 2020 is when he became the running game coordinator with the Seahawks. Then let's see here, we go to Arizona in 2021 and 2023. He was the offensive coordinator and offensive line coach. And then at Washington, this is Arizona Wildcats, not the Cardinals. The Washington Huskies, he was the offensive coordinator and the offensive line coach, and now he is the offensive line coach for the Raiders in 2025. So he has a myriad of experiences in college and pro. He's been in, so he obviously could help them, as far as like looking at some players in the draft as well too. So, because he was in college from 21 to 24. So you can see some stuff there, but we know about, like, the Patriots and Dante Scarnecchia, whatever, like some of these famous names who are synonymous with college football, or sorry, pro football offensive line work. If the Raiders are going to do anything, offensively, it's going to start with the offensive line, and it's going to start with Coach Carroll. And Coach Carroll has to really do a really good job of getting this ducks in a row on what the offensive line goes. And I think in a part of it is going to be something that's already taking place. Jackson Powers Johnson has lost a lot of weight and he looks really good from what everybody's reporting in training camp. He's also been a guy who's kind of been in that same kind of workout ethic. We had the same work ethic of being with Max Crosby. He's beating Max Crosby, or he's trying to battle Max Crosby to be in the locker room at 5 a.m. He's doing a good job of that. He's in there early, out late, and he's trying to be a leader on that offensive line. So you have the center already who is trying to flex, and let everybody know that, hey, he's the leader of the offensive line. Everything goes through me. Let's make sure that we are doing everything we can to become the best offensive line we possibly can. So that part of it is good. So for Genty, for Geno Smith, in protection and all those things like that, that should be a good thing for the Raiders. But as far as we all know about Cole Miller, his contract situation. So you have a good situation there. I think at center, left tackle, you're solid. Then we have to find out, is it going to be Dylan Parham or Jordan Meredith? Jordan Meredith had decent numbers last year. We'll see what happens there. Alex Kappa, who nobody is thrilled about, nobody likes, and nobody wants him on a lot of Raider fans are very disappointed that he's on the team, but he's a veteran. We'll see what Carlos Rogers, who is shown to have really good feet, we'll see what he does for the Raiders. But they do also have DJ Glaze from last year as well, Thayer Mumford and company, stuff like that. So and Charles Grant, another guy they drafted. They did draft again. They drafted three. They got two out of the three guys got to be good, because when you take three FBS players in your draft, you're making a statement. Because you're making a statement, and that's going to be tough for me to swallow, especially when they passed on some young quarterbacks who would have been who would have fit this offense for the future, and it would not have been forced to play right away, which would have been a nice thing since they have Geno Smith. But I just want to bring up Coach Brendan Carroll's his background. I want to be able to talk to you about his importance to the football team. And I'll try to get on somebody from Washington, with the Washington Huskies on next in the coming future, so we can talk about the offensive line and what we can expect from Coach Carroll, because it's important. I mean, it's a huge part of what the Raiders are trying to do and become more physical of a football team. One thing, Coach Carroll, we know about him from USC and Seattle. They're physical, and they believe in the competition. So those two things really are paramount to what he believes in, and I'm sure his son believes in that as well. So I know this is a thing where this isn't pure nepotism. I mean, he does have a lot of experience. He's been coaching football since 2004, and at prominent schools in college football and in the National Football League. So it's not that kind of situation. So I know we were looking for a little bit more of a positive Raider show. So I gave you one. I think Coach Carroll should do a good job. They have some versatility and some depth on the offensive line, and that's where it all starts. I mean, everybody bought those Genty jerseys, if you want to see him go wild in the season, you gotta have that offensive line pop off. All right, good to be back talking some Raider football. Put on Raiders podcast. We'll be back next time. We'll kind of I don't know. We'll figure it out. It's summertime, so we'll figure out some stuff to do, and then we'll also talk about what maybe we'll dive into Geno Smith a little bit. I think we'll do that. We'll go with some Geno Smith stuff, and we'll see what people love about Geno Smith coming into the season for your Las Vegas Raiders. All right, folks. See you next time.